Hello, everyone. Today I am with Dr. Tim Grundmeier at Martin Luther College. Today we're going to be talking about his opinion about both a person and an event that everyone should know from Wells history. Dr. Grundmeier, who do you want to talk about today?
Yeah, the person I chose is August Ernst. Ernst was born in the German kingdom of Hanover, studied at the University of Göttingen, also a little bit at the University of Rostock. He then moved to the United States, was ordained as a pastor in the Pennsylvania Synod. He served in that church body for a time, actually in New York. That church body, like many Lutheran church bodies at the time, was in multiple states, not just one. So he was in New York City. Then he moved to Albany for a time, and his time in Albany was really important because he became friends there with a man named Reinhold Adelberg. And Adelberg was a pastor in the New York Synod, but was thinking about joining the Wisconsin Synod. And so the two became friends. Adelberg moved to Wisconsin, actually to St. Mark's in Watertown. And after he got to Watertown, he told the Board of Trustees at Northwestern University, as the Wisconsin Synod's institution of higher education was called at the time, that they should look into this August Ernst guy to be a professor at Northwestern. And so in 1869, Ernst is appointed as a professor at Northwestern University. And then 2 years later, he becomes the president of Northwestern University. He's just 30 years old when he becomes the president of Northwestern University. And he is going to be the figure that dramatically transforms this institution of higher education. And so maybe it would be helpful to know kind of the origin story of this college, because it can kind of show why Ernst's presidency was so important. So this school in Watertown begins as just a seminary for educating future pastors, but in 1865 it adds a college department so that students could have more preparation before enrolling in this seminary program. And the person who was chosen to lead the college department was a man named Adam Martin. And so Martin's vision for Northwestern University, as it was called, eventually it's called Northwestern College, was it to be something like an American liberal arts college, right? So he kind of modeled it after some of the East Coast colleges. And this is what Martin's background was and what he was familiar with. Martin had a falling out with the Board of Trustees of Northwestern. He had a falling out with Synod officials, leaves in 1869. And then actually the following year, the seminary on campus was closed, so that the students for Wisconsin Synod future pastors would be educated at the Missouri Synod Seminary in St. Louis. So this is the situation when Ernst takes over as the president. And so what he does is he changes in many ways the educational model of Northwestern College to this German gymnasium model. Um, it's not quite exactly how they did things in Germany. It was a 7 year course of study rather than the German 9 years. But essentially, the idea was this would be a seamless educational experience from what we would call today high school to college. It was a 7 year curriculum. I won't get into the entirety of the Ernst curriculum that he designed because this is, beyond the scope of a video like this. But let me make two observations about how Ernst envisioned Northwestern University. First, he believed that the best way to prepare future pastors to go on to seminary someday was to give them a rigorous classical education in the liberal arts. Seminary, that's where you receive your specific training as a pastor in dogmatics, biblical exegesis, church history, pastoral theology. But at Northwestern, the idea was that you would study literature, philosophy, history, geography, mathematics, science, right? The various languages, receiving this classical liberal arts education. This is how you prepare to go on to seminary. Um, and the second thing I'll say about Ernst's time at Northwestern is that, and this is kind of interesting. I think a lot of Wisconsin Synod people don't know this. His vision was that Northwestern wouldn't be just a ministry training school. Now, that was the primary clientele, if you will, at Northwestern University. But about a third of the students that graduated there were receiving this classical gymnasium style education, um, and going on to serve in different other vocations. So Ernst really believed that this kind of educational model was the best model for higher education, not just for future pastors, but for a whole variety of professions as well. So this was Ernst's vision. And I mean, the final thing I'll say about him, he enacts it as he comes into the presidency in the 1870s, and he'll serve in that role as president for almost 50 years, 48 years from 1871 to 1919. It's interesting because down the line, he kind of is referred to as the old man on campus as he's there, this long-standing figure, but actually was during his initial time as presidency, when he's in his 30s and early 40s, that he really has this transformational impact on this institution of higher education that's so important to the Wells early history.